What? Begin the current Daf Mesechtes Beruchas Daf Nun Dal. The beginning of the last paragraph Mesechtes Beruchas Parak Haraya, which speaks about the brachas of Shvach and Haidah, specifically regarding things that are with seeing or hearing. Up until now we spoke about eating or Birchas Krishma, the brachas by Tefillah. Now we're going to speak about the brachas that relate to seeing and hearing. We're going to do a quick review of the previous daf, the last daf in El Devarim. Beruchas Daf Nun Gimel, we spoke about the halachas about making the Havdalah candle. It has to be on a candle that was shavas, therefore you cannot use from a non-Jew. And even a non-Jew from a non-Jew, that's a gezeira because you might use the first non-Jew with the first flame, which was not Shabbos, it was right after Shabbos, therefore you can't use it. But by your Jews, there's a new flame every second, therefore there's not any concern. Then we spoke about many different cases, but the primary idea ended up being, is it a candle that was lit for the illuminating purposes? Then you could go ahead and use it for Abdullah. If it was used, let's say, for the Chvayde Shal Meis, or was used for some other purpose, let's say for Adam Chashav, then it wasn't used for illuminating purposes, then you cannot use it. Same thing was for Besamim. If, let's say, it was used for the bad odor, or was used for some other purpose, or to get rid of the smell on your hands, or from the bathroom, then that wasn't made for smelling purposes, then also you cannot use it for Bar Min Besamim. We spoke about the halacha that you have to have hana from the Havdalah candle. It was a machlekes regarding, do you have to actually have hana, or does it have to be that had you been close to it, you would have had, then even when you're far, as long as you see it. We spoke about the halacha in the Mishnah. We had the machlekes, the whole parak was a machlekes b'sham b'sil, was if someone forgot and he didn't bench Beruchas Hamazon, and does he have to go back or not? Beis Shammai says you do, Beis Hillel says you don't have to. How long can you still bench? So the Mishnah said, as long as the food didn't digest. What does that mean? Either it means to say that you're not hungry yet, or you're still thirsty from the eating, and that's talking about when you ate a little bit. When you ate a lot, then it's all the way up until 72 minutes, up until what's called Daled Mil. We had the look in the Mishnah regarding answering Amen, even if you only heard part of the bracha. By a child, you cannot answer even on the whole bracha, because he's doing it just l'islamit to learn, but if he's doing it for a real bracha, like Haftarah, or like we say by the laws of Chinuch, then you could answer Amen. There was a machlekes in the Gemara, which one's bigger, the mavarich or the oina? The one who makes the bracha is bigger, the one who answers amen. On the one hand, the one who makes the bracha, because it says kumu baruchu before, it says that they answer baruch shem kaved nachosei. Or the one who answers, because who comes later is the generals after the privates already did the work. The generals come in, they sweep in, and they finish it off. But the Gemara ultimately concludes that the one who makes the bracha is greater than the one who answers amen. Although there are some shittas that actually say the one who answers amen is greater. And then the Mishnah concluded, the parah concluded regarding what holds back the bracha, certain things that you do before the end, whether it be oil or good oil or mayim achrayim, that's necessary before you go ahead and you could bench Beruchas Hamazon. Some of this we're going to speak about today in Beruchas Daf Nun Dalet, in the 9th parak of Haraya. Like we said, we're talking about the brachas of when you see something or when you hear something. So the Mishnah speaks about Makom Shanasu Nisam Li Yisrael. If it's places where they were miracles to happen to the Jewish people, which the Gemara is going to quote a brisa at great length regarding, like the Yam Suf, and they crossed the Yarden, and when they stoned the Melech HaBush, and other places that there were miraculous events, then, as the Gemara brings a source from Yisro, who benched when the Rebbeinu Shalom did a miracle for the Jewish people, everyone has to make a bracha of Sha'asa Nisim Labisein B'Makom Hazeh. The Mishnah speaks about some other things regarding if Avodah Zarah gets ripped up, you make a bracha on natural events like a shooting star or earthquake. You make a koyach b'rasam ala'olam, some natural phenomena, you make a ma'aseh bereishis, and some other brachas regarding good tidings, bad tidings, a shechianu. Then some other things related to the laws of tefillah. If someone should not make a tefillah of something that already happened, someone goes into a city, what bracha does he have, which is really the halacha of tefillah saderech, regarding that a person should make a blessing on the bad just like the good. The Gemara, the Mishnah interprets the parasha of V'ahavta b'chol levavcha b'chol nafshecha b'chol meidecha, which one of them is the source for that, and some other related halachas. The Gemara goes into 4 people that have to say Haidah, which is what we know the bracha as Hagaimel, and the Gemara brings the source for that, and also regarding in front of how many people you have to make the bracha Hagaimel, and the Gemara ends off regarding 3 types of, and the Gemara ends up adding more types of people that need to have shiur, and then a related teaching of 3 things that actually lengthen a person's days, tefillah, and regarding some lengthens davening, spending time on this table, and also in the lavatory, in the bathroom. So we continue on the top of the Nadal Manav, the new parak, the last parak of Mesechtes Brachas, parak Haraya, as the Mishnah opens up. Haraya, if someone sees, like we said, we're talking about brachas when you see or when you hear. Someone sees Makom Shanasu B'Nisim L'Yisrael, place where miracles happen to the Jewish people, as the Brisa is going to quote, where the Jewish people crossed the Yam Suf, where they crossed the Jordan River going to Eretz Yisrael, or Nachli Arnon. So if a person sees this, actually halacha, you say the following bracha. Blessed is he who made miracles for our fathers in this place. Taisus brings that, and this is actually the halacha. You have to do it with Shema Malchus. You have to say Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech Haolam she'asa nisim labeseinu b'makom hazeh. Another halacha is Makom Shenekra Mimenu Akim, a place where there was avodah zarah that was uprooted. So he says, Baruch She'oka Akim Eretzeinu, blessed is Hashem who uproots the avodah zarah from our lands. Now, regarding natural events, ala zikin, Shemar is going to explain what all these things are, but a zikin is shooting stars, valazvois on earthquakes, valaramim on thunder, valaruchas and on very strong winds, valabrakim and on lightning. So oime we know, and our minhag might be slightly different. We'll talk about it when we actually talk about it in the Gemara. But in the Mishnah, when it's discussing, like we say on lightning, you say Baruch Shekoichai, blessed is he who is strength, who gavras in his might. Moli Olam fills up the whole world because these things are seen or they're heard very, very far away. So these natural events, with the bracha is going to be Shekoichai gavras mil Olam. Now, regarding al-harm, regarding mountains, valagvois, or on hills, obviously they have to be something exceptional. Valayam or on seas, val naharis or on rivers, val madbaris or on the deserts. And Taisa says these halachas are specifically if you haven't seen it in 30 days, and that's actually the halacha. And then you say the following bracha, Baruch Esav Reishis, or like some Gersois bring down, which is the text that we generally say, Baruch Esav Meisav Reishis, blessed is Hashem who makes the acts of creation. Shikmar is going to ask, what do you mean? The ones that you just mentioned before were not Meisav Reishis? Well, isn't that the acts of God, what He created in the world? But that's what the Mishnah is dividing. Certain brachas you make shekoichig rasam aleilim because it's mighty, it's might, or earthquake is koichig rasam aleilim. These things are natural phenomena, beautiful things that God made in the world. We make isamai zabrachas. Rabbi Shloimy, he says, according to his opinion, that he always it praises Eretz Yisrael. He says, "Haraya sayam agadol." If someone sees the Great Sea, which is a great debate in even Psak Halacha, does this mean the Mediterranean? Which that would make sense because that's why Rabbi Yehuda is talking about the sea that's near Eretz Yisrael. Or is it actually the ocean, Oceania, meaning the Atlantic, the Pacific Ocean? And therefore someone was saying the other day that there are certain places you can get both. But then you say the bracha, the Yamagadl, Baruch Sha'asas Yamagadl, blessed is he who made the great sea. And that's Bizman Shurul Prakim. That's only if, as the Gemara explained on Amid Beis, that if you see it at intervals, which again means every 30 days, but since this sea is very distinguished and greater than them all, so therefore Yehuda made its own bracha, not like when you see a regular sea, which again doesn't mean just a regular sea, it means something distinguished, some type of a special river, like Taisa says would be the 4 primary rivers. But then you say Oisim Meisav, here you're going to say a special bracha for the Yamagadl, Baruch Shas Yamagadl. Continues the Mishnah al Geshamim, for when it's finally raining. Val Basuras Taivus, or on good tidings, is actually halacha. I mean, you say, Baruch Taiva Meit, blessed Hashem who's good and he does good. Al Basuras, or the Girsis Shemuris, rise on the bad tidings. So then, you say, and this halacha, as we know, Baruch Dynamis, blessed is he the true judge. Now, Bana Bayis Chadash, let's say someone builds a new house, or V'kanakem Chadashim, or he buys new articles of clothing. So this is the halacha. Baruch he says, Shechayanu b'kimanu, he's kept us alive and sustained us. V'gyan l'zman, we have reached this time period where it's a beautiful time to be around. What a milestone! We built a house, or we bought some type of new clothing. That's the primary halacha. You make a shechayanu. Additionally, says the Mishnah, B'varach ala ra, you make a bracha on the bad, which is dayin ha'emes, me'ein ala taiva, even though it's something that has within it some type of a good. The Gemara will explain what exactly does that mean. But if it's bad right now, you can make a dayin emes. You're going to make a bracha on the good. Even though it has something within it that has some bad in it, as the Gemara is going to explain, although some bad is going to come out of it, right now it's good, you make a teva meitiv. Right now it's bad, you make a dayin emes. Now, so too regarding talking about the bad, if someone screams regarding the past, and this actually brought in halacha, it's a prayer in vain. As the Mishnah explains, what do we mean crying about what happened, like the saying, crying over spilled milk? Let's say his wife is pregnant. Vaymer says, Yiratzin, let it be the will, my wife gave birth to a boy. It's a prayer in vain. The baby was already formed 40 days in. He's a week before his wife is doing the saying, if only Hashem, you give me a baby boy. What's that? It's already done already. So also, let's say let's say he's on the road. He is screaming in the city. Vaymer says, Yiratzin, let it be the will, that not be from my house. Your prayer is in vain. It is whatever it was already. What's that tefillah? You just don't know. Like the baby in the mother's womb, that's not an appropriate prayer. It's a tefillah shav. Continuing on this theme regarding going on the road and being afraid of something bad. Hanichnas lekrach. Someone is on a journey and is going into a city, and over there, as the halacha brings it, it's where it's a bad government, and there they try to catch you with different things. So mispal shtaim, you say 2 prayers when you're going into that city. Achas b'chnisase, when you're going into the city, you pray that you should go in peace. Achas b'tziase, and one, when you're leaving, you pray that you should leave in peace. But Nazarem, he says, and actually the halacha follows like him, you make arba, you make 4 prayers. Shtaim b'chnisase, 2 when you're going into the city, v'shtaim b'tziase, 2 when you're going out. Because you don't just ask, you noisen haidal sha'avar. First you give thanks for the past, v'tzaik ala asad, and then you scream regarding the future, but every time when you're going in and when you're leaving. So that comes out, as the Gemara is going to explain, there's going to be 4. Because as you're coming in, you first thank Hashem, and then you ask, okay, when I'm coming into the city, okay? And also when you're leaving, you say, thank you Hashem, up until this point, and I'm asking regarding the future. Now, continuing on this idea that we said that a person has to make a bracha on the bad, says the Mishnah, a person has to make a bracha on the bad, just like he makes a bracha on the good. And the Gemara is going to explain what exactly does that mean. Exactly, you make on the good. They're different brachas. It means to say with the same simcha. Like it says a pasuk in Devarim. It says, we know this pasuk very well, that you shall love Hashem your God, with all your heart. So first, before we bring the source that you see that you have to bless God for the good and the bad the same way, so first we expound, what do these words mean? What does it mean, b'chal levavcha, with all your heart? It should say, b'chal libcha. What's the extra base? It's b'shnei yitzrecha, the extra vav, the extra vase, b'chal levavcha, is to tell you that you have to love God with both of your inclinations. B'yitzah taiva, b'yitzah hara, you have to use your good inclination and your bad inclination. Whatever desire you have could be used also for the good too. When it says, b'chal nafshecha, with all your soul, it means, afilahu netlas nafshecha, even if God takes away your soul, you should still love Him. With all your ma'id, what does that mean? With all your money. Why does ma'id mean money? Because money we want as much as possible. Ma'id is very much, it increases, so it means with all your money, that you should love God even if it's going to cost you. Another interpretation, and this is the source we want to bring, it's from the word of midah. Every measurement that God meets out to you, whether that be a good measurement or a measurement of punishment, which is the ra, have a maidalai also with the same memdal. You should give thanks to him, b'chol miyadecha, and that's the source that we see that kashem shem mevarchen al ra, al tov kach mevarchen al ra. Now, related discussion: who is the source of the brachas? It's all Hashem. Now, what's the source of that in this world? Is the Beis Hamikdash. Says the Mishnah, lo yokal adam es reish. A person should not have kalas reish, be lightheaded in a very frivolous way. Keneged shahar mizrach, opposite the eastern gate, which is outside of the Temple Mount, where the wall is very low down over there. So by the bottom of the mountain, by the east, a person should not be lightheaded. Why? I mean, don't act in a disrespectful way. Kashru mechuven, it's exactly aligned, keneged beis kachai kachim, opposite the holiest of the holies, because the way it worked by the gates from the eastern side, you had the eastern gate on the bottom of the Temple Mount, which was exactly aligned with the Ezras Nashim, which was the opening gate of the Azar, which was exactly aligned with the Ezras Yisrael, which was exactly aligned with the opening of the antechamber, which was exactly aligned with the opening of the Heichel itself, which was exactly aligned with the Kachai Kachim in the first Beis Hamikdash, when they had what's called an Amatraxim, which is a wall. Second Beis Hamikdash already had a curtain, so it wasn't exactly open into the Kachai Kachim. But in the first Beis Hamikdash, everything was exactly aligned. So therefore, be careful how you're acting, even all the way on the bottom of the Temple Mount, because you're exactly aligned to the opening of the Kachai Kachim. So to V'leikanis lahar bayis, a person should not go into the Temple Mount b'makle with his stick, or b'min'ale with his shoes, or b'pendase, which is his money belt, which is some type of a hollow belt that you put your money into, or b'avak shal raglav, or with the dust on his feet. And v'leyasendu kabedra, he should not make the Temple Mount into a shortcut. And b'rekika makavacheme, and for sure, as the Gemara is going to explain, he shouldn't spit. Now, concludes the related to this idea regarding the brachas as it relates to the Beis Hamikdash. All those who they would conclude a bracha in the Beis Hamikdash, they would say ad ha'olam. As the Gemara in Tainus, Daf Tezayim and Beis explains that they wouldn't answer in the Beis Hamikdash. The one who would make the bracha would say at the end of the bracha, we say just baruch atah Hashem, we end of the bracha. The Beis Hamikdash they would say baruch atah Hashem elikei Yisrael min ha'olam ve'ad ha'olam baruch nadas, and so to all the brachas. And the one when they would answer the amen, they wouldn't say amen, they would say baruch Shem kavay machus l'olam vad. And we know this from the Psukim that it says by the prayer of Ezra and those that were with him. Now that our Mishnah is coming to tell us, in the first Beis Hamikdash, actually they only said, Baruch Hashem Elikei Yisrael ad ha'olam, or as the Ger says, depends on the Ger and Rashi, min ha'olam. But the point is, they would only say one time the word olam, from the world. But when the Sadducees came along and they started making problems and they said, oh, in olam ela echad. You know why they're saying min ha'olam? Because there's only one world, this world. There's no world to come. So Ezra and those with him, they instituted shiur that they should say min ha'olam ve'ad ha'olam, from the world to the world, to say that no, there's two worlds, to exclude from what the Sadducees were saying that they deny Tchias HaMesim, say no, there's two worlds, there's olam hazeh and there's olam haba. Additionally, once we're talking about what they instituted, Ezra and the Siyatoi, They also instituted a person should greet his friend with the name of God. In other words, and we don't say that that's considered disgraceful to the honor of Hashem, because of honoring another person, you're allowed to go ahead and use the name of God. And where do we know this? We know this from Bayaz. It says a pasuk in Rus. It says, "V'hinei Bayaz bo me Beis Lechem." Bayaz came from Beis Lechem. He said to the ones who were harvesting, "Hashem imachim," God is with you. He's using the name of God to greet them. And they said to him, "Yibrech Hashem," God shall bless you. So to Vayim, we learn the pasuk in Sefer Shoftim from the angel that said to Gideon, "Hashem imcha," God is with you. Gibrachel, the mighty water. You see again, you could greet someone with the name of God. So too we find the pasuk in Mishnah that says, "Al tavis, do not be disgraceful, ki ziknei imecha," which simply that can be translated because you don't disgrace your mother when she gets old. But what it actually is coming to say is, learn from the words of the elders of your nation. Imcha could be umacha, your nation. In other words, and zikna is the elders of your nation. To see what they did, that you should do that too. And therefore, just like Bayaz did that and he greeted with the name of Hashem, that's what the Gemara is going to explain. Why does he have to say V'aymer? You should also learn to say the same thing that you could greet with the name of Hashem. And so Tevayim says the pasuk and tell him, Eis las Hashem, a time to do for God. Hey, Feirus Harisecha, they nullified your Torah. Where he says from the end of the pasuk, Hey, Feirus Harisecha, if you read it the opposite, why did they nullify your Torah? Mishum Eis las Hashem, because it's a time to do for the Torah. In other words, sometimes you can mevatel the words of Torah to do what's necessary for God. So to over here, someone who's intending to greet his friend with the name of God, that's the will of God. So you're allowed to, so to speak, nullify the honor of Hashem to do His will, because the pasuk says, "Baka shalom v'rtfei," you should seek peace and you should pursue it. So you're allowed to nullify the words of Torah and use God's name like a little profane for greeting another person, even though it seems to be prohibited, because God wants you to greet another person. Therefore, you could even use His name in your greeting. Now the Gemara explains the opening halacha of our Mishnah. Where do we know this? That we actually make a bracha when you see a place where a miracle happened. Some of says because the pasuk says in Yomei Yisroi, the beginning of Parshas Yisroi, Baruch Hashem, blessed is Hashem, Asher Hitzlo B'Gayim, that saved the Jewish people. So you see that where a miracle happened of the Jewish people, then someone makes a bracha for that miracle. So on that as the Gemara, Anisa the Rabbim Mevachina. So it sounds like from our Mishnah and the pasuk that we brought to support a miracle that happened to the public, the whole Jewish people, then we make a bracha. Anisa the Yachal Mevachina. But if it's a miracle happened just for an individual, we don't make a bracha. But Vahu Gavra, there was a certain person that he was going in this with the name of this country, which is in the south of the Euphrates, called Eivri Yamina. Nafal alei Arya, a lion fell upon him. Sabalei Nisa, but it's not something a miracle happened, and he was saved from him. So Asa Kamei de Rava, so he came in from the Rava. Vamalini said to him, "Call Amos the Matzah Las." And whenever you go there, you go back to the jungle, you're going back on your tour again. Baruch, make a bracha. Baruch Shasli Nes B'Makam Hazeh. Blessed is He who made a miracle for me in this place. Additionally, we have another story. Ma'berei de Ravina, also the Paksa de Arvis. He was going in the valley of Arvis, which is the name of a place. But Tzachal and he was thirsty for water. Isabalei Nisa, a miracle happened. Ifrei Ein de Yam of Ishti, a well of water was created, and he drank. Additionally, another time, he was going in the marketplace of Mecheza. But Nafale Gamla Pritza, and a crazy wild camel who was just out of control started coming upon him. So Isparkali Ashisa, what happened was that the wall that he was of the house that was right next to him actually collapsed, and Olagava, and he went into the house and he was saved because of the camel. So Kimatla Arba Arabas, when he would come to the first place where the miracle happened for him, Baruch, he would make the bracha. This is the halacha. Baruch she'asli nes ba'ravas u'begamel. When a person has more than one miracle, so when he goes to the place where the miracle happened, you first mention the place of the miracle that you're at, and you also mention the other place of the miracles that happened to you. And therefore, kimat l'ristika the mechuzah, when we go to the other place of the marketplace of mechuzah, Baruch, he would make the same bracha, but in the opposite order. Baruch she'asli nes begamel u'ba'ravas, that happened to me with the camel and the place of Barabbas. But it's okay. One thing we see from these stories are that even individuals make the bracha of she'asli nes b'makam hazeh. How is it that the Mishnah is only talking about the Jewish people, and the pasuk from Yisro is also only the whole Jewish people? So they said, Anisa the Rabbim, the miracle that happened with the whole Jewish people, everyone, every Jewish person, even if that's not that actual Jew that got saved, has to make the bracha. Anisa the Yachad, a miracle that happened to an individual, Ihu, and the Vilna Gaon adds on, which is actually the halacha, Ubrei Ubarbrei. Him, his son, and his grandson, Chayav Levrucha, they have to make the bracha of where the miracle happened, and therefore we don't mention it because it's not the whole Jewish people, but yes, an individual would have to make a bracha in a place where a miracle happened. Now, turn around, when the Brisa elaborates on these places where miracles happen to the Jewish people. Actually, these are all halachas. If someone knows that these are the places, you would make the bracha of Sha'as and Nisim Lavasena B'Makam Hazeh. The Brisa says, Haraya Mavris Hayam. If someone sees the place where the Jewish people went and crossed the Yamsuf, or Mavris HaYarden, or in the days of Yeshua when they crossed the Jordan River going to Eretz Yisrael, or Mavris Nachli Arno, the passing of the valley of Arno, which the Gemara can explain what miracle happened over there, or Avnei Algavish, or the stones of Algavish, which we're also going to explain what that is, which were B'merid Beis Chayrin, in the descent of Beis Chayrin in the days of Yeshua when he was fighting with the Amorim, or the Evan Shabikash Lizuk Oig Melech Bashan al Yisrael, or the stone that Oig, the king of Bashan, wanted to throw on the Jewish people, which again the Gemara is going to explain that also, or the Evan Sheyeshav Moshe, or the stone that Moshe Rabbeinu sat on B'Shosha Asa Yeshua Melchama B'Amalek, when Yeshua was fighting the war against Amalek. So Moshe Rabbeinu was sitting on that stone. If you see that stone, or the Ishtei Shalit, you see the wife of light that turned into a pillar of salt, or the Chemis Yericha Shenivle B'Mekayma, when the Jewish people were conquering Eretz Yisrael, that the wall of Jericho went and got absorbed into the ground in its place. Al Kulan Tzarch Shit Haida B'Shvach Lefnei HaMakom. When you ever see any of these places, you have to give thanks and praise to God. So the Gemara now explains all these cases of the Brisa. Bishlam and Marbis Hayam, we understand this about crossing over the Yam Suf. The Chesed says the pasuk in Shemais. It says V'yivay b'nei Yisrael b'teicha yam b'yabash. It says the Jewish people came into the sea on dry land. So we know there was such a miracle. If you see that place, you make the bracha she'asan yisrael labiseinu. So to Mavris Yarden, we know that the Jewish people crossed over the Jordan River on dry land. The Chesed says the pasuk in Sefer Yeshua. It says V'yamda kahanim. The kahanim were standing. Noisei Aron Bris Hashem. They were holding on the Aron, of the ark of the covenant of Hashem. B'charava in dry land b'teicha Yarden hachin. They were standing in the dry land in the Jordan River. V'chol Yisrael oivim b'charava, and all the Jewish people were passing in dry land until the whole nation passed the Jordan River. Then they left, and then the waters kept on rushing. So we know a miracle happened there too, and if you see that place, you make a bracha there too. But the passing of the valley of Arnon, where do we know this? What is this referring to? What's this miracle? Says the Gemara, like it says the pasuk in the Midbar. It says, Al Kain Yo'amad, therefore it should be said, B'Sefer Malchamas Hashem, in the book of the wars of God, Es V'Hev B'Suf V'Goymer, which it says over there at the end of the pasuk, V'Sanacholim Arnon, and the valleys of Arnon. So what does this mean? So Tana within the Brisa explains, Es V'Hev B'Sufa, which Shnei Mitzeram Hayu, as the Tzlach brings, it's brought on the side of some Gemaras, that there were two Mitzeram. Now a Mitzera has to be out of the Shalosh Machnos, so you cannot be in the camp of the Jewish people. So they were trailing behind the rest of the Jewish people as they were traveling. One was called Es, another one was called Hev. And the Vav of Vahev is like and. So you have two Mitzeram, Es and Hev, Besufa, that's what the pasuk is saying, at the end of the Jewish camp. The Ava Mahalchim is Seif Machan Yisrael. They were going Besufa at the end of the Jewish people because they were Mitzeram. Now Kiaba Kacholfi Yisrael, when the Jewish people were passing through that area of Nachli Arnon, Asu Amiroi, so the Emarim, they came along and they went and they hid in that valley. As we continue to Medbeis, what did they do? Avdi Lahaini Kirusa. They made caves because the crossing of Nachli Arnon was through a very deep valley between two large mountains. Now the Jewish people had to pass through that valley on their journey. So the Merum, what they did, they made caves on the two sides of the mountains, and they went and they hid in those caves in the mountains. They said, when the Jewish people passed through this deep valley, Naktalina, we're going to kill them. We'll just throw stones at them. We'll just totally annihilate them. Now, but they didn't know the Aron have a maski kamay Yisrael. The ark would go in front of the Jewish people. It would clear out. It would mow down the mountains and spread it out from side to side until it was totally flat ground for the Jewish people to walk. So therefore, keeping the Asar, when the ark came in front of the Jewish people, the two mountains actually connected, and therefore to make like a road for the Jewish people just to cross right over, could just flatten it out and made them come together. But Katlina, and that killed out all the Merim who were hiding in the caves because the jagged edges of one end came into the caves of the other side and totally killed the Merim that were hiding inside of it. And the blood of the Merim were dripping down into Nachli Arnon. Now, but when Esvahev came, Chazu Dama, they saw the blood. The Jewish people didn't see because when the Jewish people passing by, it was flat ground. When after the Jewish people went back to its natural state, and then the blood started dripping out. The Konafik, meaning the two that was coming out from between the mountains. Also, they came and they told the Jewish people what happened. The Amr Shira, and they sang a song to see the great miracle that happened for them. That's the miracle of Nachli Arnon. That's what the pasuk says in the Midbar. The Esher HaNacholim, and the outpouring of the canyons, Asher Nata, that veered, meaning the mountain that was on one side of the valley, veered to the other mountain, Leshevis, to dwell, meaning the mountain that was on the other side of where the Moabites were, where Moab was, what's the name of the land of Moab? That's Ar, which that's the name of the place, of the city. V'nishan l'gvul Moab, and it attached itself to the border of Moab. That's the pasuk referring to this great miracle that the mountain actually went and kissed the other mountain, thus killing all the Merum that were hiding in the caves on the mountain because they wanted to kill the Jewish people. That was the miracle. Now, the next thing the Brisa mentioned was Avnei Al-Gavish. Says the Gemara, my Avnei Al-Gavish, what are these stones of Al-Gavish? So tell me what in the Brisa, Al-Gavish is a compound word. Avanim Sha'amdu, we're talking about stones that stayed in the ear, Al-Gavish. Al-Gavish is Al-Gavish because of a person. The Yardu, and they came down Al-Gavish because of someone that's called a Ish, a man. As the Gemara explains, Amdu Al-Gavish, they stayed in the ear because of a Ish. Zeh Moshe refers to Moshe, and like it says the pasuk in Bamidbar. First, we have to see that Moshe is called Ish. It says Ish Moshe on the Ma'id. The man Moshe was very humble. So you see, he was called Ish. Now, what miracle are we talking about by Moshe Rabbeinu that because of him the stone stayed in the ear? Because the Exhibit says the pasuk in Shemais, V'yechtelu hakoyles v'habarad, that the thunder and the hail ceased to be. Umatur lo'nitach arza, and the rain didn't come down, didn't reach the earth, which means to say the bara, the hailstones, didn't come down when Moshe Rabbeinu davened the bara, the makas bara should stop. They stopped mid-ear, and they stayed in the ear space. Now, Yardu al-Gavish, later on in the history, those hailstones came down because of an Ish, Zeh Yeshua. That refers to Yeshua. The Ksubah says the pasuk in Midbar, Kachel has Yeshua ben Nun, Ish Asheruach, by a man that has a spirit in him. So we see that he's also called Ish. And the Ksubah, where do we see that because of Yeshua, hailstones came down? It says in the pasuk, was that they were running away from the Jewish people. Haim b'morid beis charin, they were in the descent of beis charin, which we said is Avnei Al-Gavish al beis charin. Hashem hishlach aleim avon ganeilis, and Hashem threw on them large stones, which the pasuk says that many of the enemies of the Jewish people died, but Avnei Habarad, with the hailstones. So we see that Avnei Al-Gavish are the stones, which are the hailstones that stayed up in the ear because of an ish by Moshe Rabbeinu Makas Barad, and they came down because of an ish, which are Yeshua, that because of him, when he was chasing his enemies, the hailstones came down and killed from the enemies. Then the Brisa said, Evan Shabikash Oig Melech Habash and Lizragal, you saw there was a stone that Oig, who we know was a famous giant, wanted to throw on the Jewish people and kill them. There was a miracle that happened over there, which Gemara Gemara, that's a tradition that we have. It's not brought in any pasuk. And what happened? Omar, Oig said to himself, he spoke to himself, and he said, Machni Yisrael Kamahava, how large is the Jewish people? It says, Tlasa Parsi, it's 3 Parsi, which is around 9 square miles. Now, we know this because the pasuk says in Bamidbar that the Jewish people at one point in the desert, they were dwelling from Beis HaYeshimas to Evel HaShitim. And the Gemara in Avron, Daf Yomi Beis brings from Rabbi Beruchas, he says, I saw that place, and that's 3 parsa square. So the Jewish people were an area of 3 square parsa, which is around 9 square miles. So, what did Oig Melech Habashan do, as any giant would do? Ezel v'akar tur bar tlasa parsa. He says, I'm going to rip out a mountain, there's 3 parsa squared, the Ishtelai, and I'll throw it in. And Viktelai, that's it, done. I'll kill the Jewish people in one shot with the mountain. So Azla Akatur Bar Tlasa Parsa, that's what he did. He ripped out a mountain, that's 3 parsa square. Va'isi Arishi puts it on his head. Now Va'isi Kuchabricho ala Kamti, but what did God do? He brought ants into the mountain, V'nikvu, and they dug holes in the mountain, and then what he was holding wasn't anymore the full mountain because the ants had dug around, and then V'nachis B'tzavari, it fell around his neck. Now Havabai L'mishla, he wanted to pull it out from around his neck. What happened was Mashchishini L'hai Gisu L'hai Gisu, God made that his teeth grew long on either side, and got stuck in the mountain. It was around his neck, and now his teeth were stuck, and then he couldn't pull it out from on top of his neck. That's what it means in pasuk in Tehillim. It says, "Shini risham shibarta." The teeth of the wicked you break. And that says the Gemara. No, because Rishon Malaka says, "What does it mean? Shini risham shibarta." The teeth of the wicked you broke. Atika shibarta. Don't read it that you broke, because what's the chiddush? Ela shirvavta. Rather, you went and you extended it. You made it grow downwards. That was happened to Oig Melech Habash, and his teeth grew long and got stuck in the mountain that was hanging around his neck. So what ended up happening? Moshe Kamahava, how tall was Moshe Rabbeinu? Esther Amas, he was 10 amas tall. How do we know this? Because he went and he erected the Mishkan. And with the Gemara says that when it says in Shemais Lamed Vav, it says that he went and he erected himself to the height of the Mishkan, where the height of the Karashim, which was the height of the Mishkan, was 10 amas. Moshe Rabbeinu was the height of the Mishkan, therefore he was exactly 10 amas. So therefore, Shokal Nargra ba Esther Aman, he took an axe that was 10 amas long. Shavar, he jumped upwards, Esser Aman, 10 amas, so he was now at a height of 30 amas. He was 10 amas high. He took an axe 10 amas high. He jumped up 10 amas, 20 feet in the air. Umachir b'karsule, and he hit Oig Melech Habashan on his ankle. The cutlass, and he killed him that way because again he was in the compromised state because the mountain was around his neck. That's the miracle that happened by this Evan Shabikish Oig Melech Habashan Lizrgal Yisrael. The next item mentioned in the Bryce was the Evan Sheyashav Alev Moshe, the stone that Moshe Rabbeinu was sitting on. Like it says the pasuk in Shemais, it says V'yidei Moshe Kvedim. The hands of Moshe were heavy. In other words, he couldn't keep his hands stretched out all day unless they supported his arms. So it says V'yikol Evan, they took a stone. V'yisim Mitachto, they put it beneath him. V'yishav and he sat on it. That was a stone that happened. A miracle when we were able to overcome Amalek. That's the miracle that with the stone that Moshe Rabbeinu was sitting on. You make a bracha sha'asa nisam labesenim b'makom hazeh. So to v'ishta shalit, if someone sees the wife of Light, it says a pasuk in Beruchas Daf, when they were running away from Sodom, says that his wife glanced to the back to look back at Sodom. But the Hinitziv Melch, she turned into a pillar of salt. So therefore, that's when the person makes a bracha. And if someone sees where the walls of Jericho get absorbed into the ground, the says the pasuk in Yeshua, it says that the wall collapsed from beneath it, which that sounds like it's in its place, because what does it mean in its place? If it collapses, it usually collapses forward or backwards. If it's in its place, must mean they got absorbed in the ground. So the Gemara wonders, Bishla Mekula Nisu, we understand all of them are miracles. So you're going to make a Baruch Sha'asa Nisim Labasin B'Mak Mazeh. El Ishtar Shalit, but one thing the Gemara asked regarding one of the items, the wife of Light, Paranasahu, it's punishment. Why would you make a Nisim Labasenu? So the Gemara says, you're right, Da'ama Baruch Daina Emes. You're right, you don't say that. You say that God is the true judge, that he punished the wife of Light. Says the Gemara, how could you say this? But the Bryce says these are blessings of thanksgiving and praise. Says the Gemara, no, Tani, you should read it like this. The bracha is Al Light V'Al Ishtay, on Light and on his wife. Mevarach Shtaim, you make two brachas, and that's actually halacha. Al Ishtay, Ayim Baruch Dain Emes. You're right, for the wife you make the true judge. V'Al Light, regarding Light is where you say a Baruch of Shvach. Baruch Zecher Tzadikim, blessed is God who remembers the righteous, because he recalled Avram Avinu. As Amar B'Yechon, he says, even when God is angry, Zecher Tzadikim, he remembers the righteous. No, he says the pasuk in Beruchas. God is angry about what people are doing, so to speak, and he destroyed the cities of the area, which is Sodom. But he still recalled Avram, and he took out Light from amongst that upheaval. So therefore, when we're saying you see the wife of Light, yeah, you make a Daina Emes, but on Light, you make the bracha of Zecher Esat Tzadikim. Now we also mentioned the when you have the walls of Jericho that collapsed into the ground, you make a bracha there too. Says the Gemara, is that really true that they got absorbed into the ground? But but they fell down. Didn't get absorbed into the ground. Like it says the pasuk in Yeshua, it says when the nation heard the sound of the shofar, and they made a huge blast, but and the walls fell beneath it. So you see, it fell, it didn't get absorbed into the ground. Says the Gemara, even the pussy and since the width and the length of the walls were equal, so if it would fall, you wouldn't recognize that it fell because it's the same height. The height and the width is the same. So if let's say it would fall in the height, that's the same. It was as thick as it was tall. It was a square. So if a square falls, you don't see anything that's falling. So mishum hachi ivlo balu, it has to be that it got absorbed into the ground, because that's the only way you could have that wall falling. Because if it would fall, it's the same height, it's the same width. What does that mean? It fell. There's no falling of such a wall. Therefore, if it fell in its place, must have been that it got absorbed into the ground. Now, up until this point, we spoke about miracles that happened to our fathers. Now we talk about the halacha that we mentioned regarding an individual who is saved. I'm Rabbi Shloimy Schwartzberg, and this is actually a halacha. There's 4 types of people have to give thanks when they leave the state of danger that they were in up until now. Yerd Hayam, those who go overseas. Holchem Midbaris, those who go in deserts. Misha someone that was ill and got healed, which Taisa says it's a real person that got really sick, not if he has a headache or a stomachache. If someone was in jail and he was let out, those are people that it says v'chol hachayim yerducha sela. V'chol hachayim, chayim is those who are chavish, those who are by the yam, those are yetzim beis asurim, and those are midbaris. Those are the chol hachayim yerducha. Those are the people that have to give thanks to God. They have to bench goimel. Says the Gemara Yedei Yaminal. Now we're going to explain at great length from in Tilim Kuf Yud Zayin. Some people say this in Haidu before on Erev Shabbos, that you see the source for these 4 that they have to bench Goimel. So Yerdei Yaminal, what do we know those who go down into the seas, meaning they're seafarers, they go on a ship? Because it says the pasuk in Tehillim. It says Yerdei Hayam Banis V'Goimer, those who go down into the seas in ships, etc. So it says Hey Mero Masei Hashem, they see the acts of God. And it says in the pasuk, V'Yamed Ruach Sa'ara, he raises up a stormy wind. Ya'alo Shemam, they go up to the heavens. Yerdei Sa'amis, they go down into the depth, meaning we see the danger of going on this high seas. It says in the pasuk, Yechugu, they're reeling v'yinu, and they're staggering kashika like a drunkard. Like it says in the pasuk, V'yitziku el Hashem etzalehem, they scream out to God in their distress. Yitzim, and from their straits he takes them out. And Va'im, it says the pasuk Yakum Sa'ara, so he stops the storm, Lidmama, where it just gets silent. Va'im, it says in the pasuk Yismachu, they're happy Ki Yishteiku, because the waters are quiet. Va'im, it says the pasuk Yudu Lashem Chazir, let them give thanks to God, V'niflais of them in the Adam, because of his kindness and his wonders that he does to people. So therefore you see that those who go on the seas have to give thanks. They have to bench Gaimel. What do we know those who go through the deserts? Like it says there again in that same parak Tehillim, it says Toba Midbar. They wandered in the desert, Bishima Darach, in the desolate path. Ir Meishavle Mitzo. They didn't find a city of inhabitants. V'yitzakol Hashem. They scream out to God. V'yidruchem b'derech yishara, and He leads them in the straight path. Yodu Hashem Chazir. Let them give thanks to God. Okay, Misha Chalav ben Israel. How do we know someone that got sick and got healed? It says in that same parak in Tehillim. It says, Avilam, fools, miderech pisham, because of their sinful path, remember the saying, Yisanom, because of their averis, they get afflicted. Kol oichel tesab nafshem b'gaymer, but all food becomes repulsive to them. They can't eat, they're sick. V'yitzakol Hashem b'tzalahem b'gaymer, and they scream out to God in their straits, etc. Yishlach devar v'yirpoim b'gaymer, so He sends His word and He heals them. Yedul Hashem chaz, you should give thanks to God for His kindness. The last one, Misha Yechavish Bebeis Asur Menolan. How do we know someone who was in jail and was let out that he has to bench Goyim? It looks like it says there in that same parak Tehillim. Yeshvei Cheshich B'Tzalmabes B'Goyim. Those who sit in the dark and in the shadow of death, etc. Kihimru Imri El B'Goyim, because they rebelled against the word of God, etc. Vayman, it says in the pasuk V'Yachna, and they is humble Ba'amalib B'Goyim in the work of their heart, etc. Vayman says V'Yizakol Hashem B'Tzalehem. They scream out to God in their straits. But it says the pasuk He takes them out from the darkness and from the shadow of death. It says the pasuk they should give thanks to God for His kindness. So therefore, that's the source of the four that have to bench Gomel. Says what's the bracha that he has to make for this Thanksgiving? So Rabbi Yehuda says Baruch, that he should be blessed, Gomel Chasam Tovim, that he does good kindness. Now, actually, the Vilna Gaon brings the gear so that we say that he's Gomel L'Chayavim, that he does kindness to those who are indebted. Taiva is good things. Shegemalani called Taiv, that he did for me all the good. Now, by Amr, he says, and you have to give this Thanksgiving in front of 10 people. Like it says in the pasuk over there, that they should elevate God in the assembly of people, which Rabbi Kiva brings down. Generally, we find like Rashi and Ksubis that a makahelas, like kahal, means 10 people. Therefore, you have to go ahead, and Taisa brings down the custom is to do it by Kriyas HaTorah, because then you know you're going to have 10 people, because you only live with 10 people. And therefore, you see, it has to be B'Kolam. Now, Mazutram, he says, but B'Trei Minai Rabbanan, 2 of the 10 have to be rabbis. Shemek says over there in the pasuk, U'B'Meishav Zikanim Yahalu. In the session of the elders, you have to give thanks to God. You have to have the Zikanim. You have to have Talmidei Chacham. Now, Maskil Rav Ashi says, if that's the case, Ve'Mekul Rabbanan. Maybe say all of the 10 have to be rabbis. So he says, no, Miksev B'Kal Zikanim. Does it say Kahal, which means 10 of the elders? No, B'Kal Amksev, in the assembly of the people. It could be any type of person. But then says the Gemara, he asked him, Ve'ema, then say Bei Asar Sha'am. Maybe it has to be 10 regular people. V'Trei Rabbanan, and another 2 rabbis, because those are 2 different terms, Kal Am and Moshe Zekanim. So you should have to actually have 12 people. Says the Gemara, Kasha, it's a difficulty, and Tosha actually says one should be stringent. Although the custom is that no, even if there's not 2 rabbis, as long as there's 10 people, you could bench Goimel. Now the Gemara brings a story related to this halacha that Rabbi Yehuda Chalash ve'itbach. Rabbi Yehuda became sick, and they got healed. So Al Gabei Rav Chana Bagdasar, Rav Chana from Baghdad, which was the name of a city in Babel, which from the most distinguished cities from when Babel was destroyed. V'Rabban, the rest of the rabbis, they came to him. Amalei, they said to him, "Oh, Baruch Rahman, blessed is God. The Yavlan that He gave you to us, but He didn't give you to the earth. Meaning that you were saved and you didn't die." So Amalei said to him, "It's actually the halacha. Patartin yasim aladu. You exempted me from benching goimel, from giving thanks to God, because you made the bracha." Says the Gemara, but Amar Abai says, "You have to say in front of 10 people." Says the Gemara, there were 10 people there. Says the Gemara, but he didn't give the thanksgiving. How did it help that they made the bracha, but he didn't make the bracha? Says the Gemara, Leit Tzarach. No, he doesn't have to, because the Ani Basraya Amen, which acts halacha, he answered Amen, and therefore it's like he said the bracha himself, and therefore he didn't have to bench goimel anymore. Now, another teaching from Amar Rav Yehuda, Kater this thing regarding a sick person, Shleisha Tzrichin Shimer, there are 3 types of people that need to be protected from the harmful spirits. Ve'elain, they're a chayla, a sick person, because a sick person, his mazel is weakened. So therefore, the demons could take advantage of him. So too, we're going to see by a woman that just gave birth, and so too by a mourner, they need Shimer because they're in a weakened state of heavenly, divine of protection. Their mazel is weaker. Now, so too needs protection is a chassan, is a groom, and that's the halacha that we do, B'kala and a bride. Now, so too we're going to see like a Talmid Chacham, that's a different reason, because there they have that they're jealous of those people. So you need to add shmir, not because their mazel is less, but because the demons are jealous. So to Masnita Torah in the Bryce is not only those three, it's also Chayla, a sick person, a Chaya, a woman that gave birth, Chasan, Vikala, a groom and a bride. V'yeshem, and some say Af, also a mourner. V'yeshem, and those who say after Mincham Balayla, also Tamarus Kara nighttime. But again, there's two different categories. One's because they have a weakened state of mazel, and one is because they're jealous because of the stature that they have. A Chasan, a Kala, Tamid Chacham, therefore they need a protection. Actually, that's halacha, we follow like that. Another teaching from Rabbi Yehuda, again about Shleish Devarim, three things. Hamarchben, if someone does them lengthy, Marichin Yoma v'Shneiser Shaladam, it lengthens a person's days and his years. What are three things that a person should do for a long time? Hamarch b'tfilas, if someone lengthens his davening. Or v'hamarch al shachanei, if someone spends a long time on his table. Now the reason for that is because if you're spending a long time at your table, the poor people are going to come in and they're going to be able to get sustenance from the food that you're eating on the table. Or v'hamarch b'beis hakisa, if someone spends a long time in the bathroom, it's very helpful and healthy for him that he could relieve himself. Those three things lengthen a person's days and his years. So the Gemara wonders, asking on the first one we mentioned, about someone davens a long time al yusi, that's a good thing? But whoever davens for a long time, and he contemplates, in other words, he says in his heart, oh, God's for sure going to do what I want, because I daven with great intent, and I had a real davening, I'm for sure going to get what I want. And then actually, Seif Boladei Ke'ev Leib, at the end he gets the heartache, because actually his request doesn't become fulfilled. Somebody says a pasuk in Mishlei. It says, Techeles mimoshecha, a prolonged prayer. Techeles is a terminology of prayer like we find by Yechal Moshe. Machla leiv is actually the sickness of the heart. And so too we find V'amar Yitzchak, he says, Shleisha Dvar Maskir Ma B'Neser Shaladim. There are actually three things that recall a person's sins. That actually through doing these things, in Shemaim they start actually investigating this person's actions to say, hey, this person seems to be confident in his merits. Let's see actually what he's really made of. And Ve'elehin, what are the three things? Kir Natoi, if he passes by a wall that's leaning over, that's a dangerous place that the wall could collapse, and he still passes through, or Ve'iyun Tefillah, or he goes and he analyzes his prayer, or he gives over the judgment he has against his friend to heaven, and he's confident in his merits. He says, you know what, because this person messed with me, he's going to get punished. So in Shemaim, they look at him, wait a second, you're so confident, you're such a great person, what, you think your prayer is so great, you think someone should get punished because of you, you think you could walk in a dangerous place? It actually recalls a person's sins. So you see that analyzing prayer, spending a long time with it, is not a good thing. So how can you say that you should be mach b'tfilasi? So the Gemara says, halakash is not a difficulty, it is actually the halacha. Had ma'ayin, it's not appropriate if you're davening along davening to analyze and say, okay, I daven, what is, I'm waiting for this so long, how come it's not happening? That brings a person to heartache. That's maskir abanesav shaladam. You know what I'm saying? You don't have such great expectations for your prayer. That's a bad thing. When did we say it's marichin yom b'shneiser shaladam? If he doesn't analyze, he just davens along davening. Says but how do you daven along davening without saying, God, I'm so great? Is the mapish barachmi. You increase the mercy. So yes, you should daven along davening saying, God, I'm nothing. God, it's all your world. You give me so much good. That's good if you daven along tefillah. But if you're being marich and you're saying, okay, for sure what's going to happen is going to happen what I'm looking for, that's actually maskir abayis. Actually, it just brings a person to heartache. Some ideas we spoke about today is Daf, Beruchas Daf Nundal. We started the 9th and last parak of Masechtas Beruchas, parak Haraya, which, like the title of the parak, talks about Beruchas about seeing and hearing. We opened up the halach of the Mishnah. We spoke about if someone sees a place where miracles happen to the Jewish people, then the source is from Yisro, where he made a bracha because the Jewish people were saved from the Egyptians. We said that everyone has to make a bracha, even though didn't happen to this individual Jew, whereas by an individual, only him and maybe his son and his grandsons have to make the same bracha. But where it happened to the whole of the Jewish people, everyone has to make a bracha. And the Gemara brought a brayso that went through the places, like by the Yam Suf, when they crossed the Jordan River, in Nachli Arna, which was the Emorim, that you had Esvahei Basufa, they saw that actually they got killed out, although they were waiting in ambush by the two mountains. There was Avnei Al-Gavish, which was Al-Gavish. By Moshe and Yeshua, Moshe, the hailstone stayed in the air. By Yeshua, the hailstones came down. We have the stone of Oig Melech HaBashan, the great miracle that he tried to throw the mountain to kill the Jewish people. His final solution, and then actually his teeth got stuck in the mountain around his neck. We have the stone that Moshe Rabbeinu sat on fighting Amalek, which the Jewish people won. We had the wife of Lot that we say you make a dye in the emes, she turned into a pillar of salt. And then you recall the husband, Lot, who we make a bracha of Shvach Vayda, that he recalls the righteous, which he recalls Avram Avinu, even though when he's, so to speak, angry, killing the people of Sodom. And the Chemes Yericha, which we said that it got absorbed into the ground because it was exactly a square and it cannot fall. It must have been absorbed into the ground. Also, our Mishnah mentioned you make a bracha when Avodah Zarah gets uprooted. And we spoke about, let's say, natural events, shooting stars, earthquakes, lightning, thunder. You make a shekaychik v'rasam aleim, the God's might and strength, it fills up the world because these things are, you hear or you see very far away. Also, natural phenomena of Oisim Ma'aseh Bereishis, which are things that don't move, but they're mountains, seas, deserts. Those are things that are great acts of creation. He said on good tidings we make a teva, bad tidings die in the emes. When you buy or new clothing or you build a new house, you make a shechayanu. We said that if someone screams what already was, it's a tefillah shav. So if his wife is expecting, or if he hears something in screaming saying, "Oh, I hope that's not my kids," that's a tefillah shav. What do you mean? It already is. That's not an appropriate prayer. We said what our appropriate prayer is when you're going into a city, you should make either 2 or 4 brachas. You should thank God what was before you going into the city, and then pray when you're going into the city. And also when you're leaving that city, if those are dangerous places, bad cops over there, or people in the government or whatever it is that's there that are out to get people. Or a person should make a bracha on the bad just like the good. The source for that is when we interpret the parsha V'ahavta is b'chal levavcha, which means b'shnei yitzrecha. You should serve God with both your good and your bad inclination. Don't get disheartened by your yetzer hara. Yetzer hara is there to help you too. B'chal nafshecha is even if God takes away your soul, you should still love Him. B'chal mayadecha is either with all your money you should serve Him, even though it's going to cost a lot, or another interpretation, which is the one that actually explains the source, is b'chal midu mida. In every measurement that He gives you, whether it's good or bad, you should thank God for what He's giving you. Also, we said a person should not act lightheaded opposite the eastern gate by the Temple Mount, which like if you're by the around the Kaisel area, if you're by the eastern gate, you're directly opposite. In the times of Beis Hamikdash, one should not act lightheaded. When they would conclude brachas, they used to say min ha'olam, but because of the Sadducees, they would say min ha'olam ba'ad ha'olam, to say there's 2 worlds, this world, next world. No, so you should greet someone with God's name, and that's not considered problematic. The Gemara went through 4 types of people that have to give hoidah, which we call ben shegaimel, those who went overseas, those who go in the desert, those who were sick and got healed, and those who were let out of jail. The common one that we know people do is when they go overseas, then they make the bracha of ben shegimel, which is baruch hagimel chayim tayv shegimlani kol tayv. You do it in front of 10 people, generally it's done by kriyas Torah, and ideally it should be 2 zikanim, 2 elders over there. We spoke about 3 types of people, but we added on a few more in brises and other interpretations, but there's basically 2 categories of people that need to be protected. A sick person, a woman that gave birth, and a mourner, their mazel is weakened, so they need to be protected. A chassan that count at nighttime, the mazikin are jealous of them because of their elevated status, therefore they need to be protected. And we ended off with those 3 things that lengthen a person's days. If you lengthen your davening, but again we said you shouldn't be ma'ayin in it, just beg and beseech to Rabbeinu Shalom. If you lengthen your time on the table, because then the poor people are going to come and get food, or in the bathroom where it's healthy that a person can relieve himself, those are 3 things that lengthen marich and yom. Thank you for any time for hosting us.